Good morning, Team Sotheby's. A common challenge that we've been incurring a lot lately, and I expect to see numerous times in the near future, is agents trying to structure how to set up a listing agreement or a contract for trusts, LLCs, corporations, and POAs. We struggle with how do you do the seller field or the name field in the contract versus the signature field. So we're going to talk about that today and make some progress that'll help you out. In doing so, I would recommend that you view this in full screen. So if you click on the double arrow in the bottom right-hand corner, it'll be very helpful. So the challenge is that the seller name or buyer name, depending on which agreement you're doing, has to be exactly as the entity or owner is required, but the signature is going to be different. See here on this one-page list, that was created in coordination with Mallory Moretti at Berlin Patton Eveling Law Firm. We tried to nut it down to make it as clear as possible. So you see the list of the name and how it's got to be signed for each different type of entity. Now, this is not the Bible. This is a guideline. Let's assume that a trust might have been created in another state and it could have a different way of signing it or something to that effect. But this should help you with 90% of the situations. But you still need to check with the attorney or financial planner, whoever set it up, to make sure that you are doing it exactly as that particular entity requires. So the next question is, how do I do this in .loop? Well, again, seller name has to be different than the seller initials and signature. Well, let me tell you, .loop doesn't really handle this that well, or at least I haven't figured out a way to get .loop to handle it that well. Maybe you can teach me how to do it. So what I've done is figured out a workaround that enables you to do it as efficiently as possible. Step number one, know exactly how it's supposed to be titled. Don't make a mistake on this. Go back and get the trust papers or whatever the entity is, or talk to the attorney, etc., and get it correct right out of the gate so you don't run into a problem down the road, and know exactly how it has to be signed also. So a little bit of planning will help ensure that you have a valid agreement or valid contract that won't run into problems down the road. Next thing you do is create a loop, just like we always do, just a standard loop. But before you do anything in the loop, don't open any documents, don't do anything to any of them. Scroll all the way to the bottom of the page to the people section. And in the people section, go ahead and add the sellers in the way that you want the seller to sign. That's the key. This is kind of counterproductive, or not counterproductive, but counter to the way that we normally think. Normally, we add the seller or the buyer, whoever it is, the way that we want it to show in the entity field. But to get this to work in .loop, enter the person the way you want them to sign or the way you want their signature to look. So here, let's do one. We do an add person. And you see here under full name, my example, Jim Bailey, individually and as trustee. That matches page one that we showed you that Mallory worked on for the trustee's signature. That's how Jim is entered as a person. Okay, and regardless whether it's a contract or listing agreement, whatever. Next thing you do is you open up the first document or open up the group of documents and do autofill so it can populate all the fields with this initial and signature. So here we see Jim is listed in the auto field as Jim Bailey, individual and trustee. Again, that's how he's going to sign. All right, so when we do autofill, it populates the first page, the seller field or the entity name, if you're in a contract, the buyer name, whatever you're doing, as well as initial fields and signature fields. Well, guess what? This is wrong. It cannot, the seller name in this case is incorrect, because if you go back to Mallory's sheet, it needs to be Jim Bailey as the trust name, not as the way he signs it. Again, a difference. So we can't leave it this way. How do you fix it? Guess what? You have to manually fix it. So you may say, wait a minute, this is supposed to be an automated system. Do I really have to do something manually? Sorry, but I haven't figured this out any other way. So just do it. Click in the field that says seller and just backspace till you get back, and you can type in Jim Bailey, Living Trust, dated July 1, 2015. That'll correct the situation. You have to do that on each form. So let's say there's an HOA doc or a seller's disclosure or whatever. Typically, it is one place on each form that you put the entity name. The reason that we do it this way in .loop, where we set it up the person as a signature, is because there's going to be multiple places that they initial and or sign, much more frequent than you'll have the entity name. So a little bit of manual work helps it work out. So now we went in, we changed the seller name, and everything's correct. All the initials and signatures are set up the way that we did the person. We manually overrode the seller field. You're ready to share it with your customer and have them sign it. As soon as you share it, they go in to sign it, and they will see, as you see at the bottom half of the screen here, Jim Bailey individually as trustee and as trustee. So the customer is seeing that they are signing it correct electronically too. That again will be good for you to help build confidence that your customer understands that you're doing the right thing for them. End result on a listing agreement. First page, we have the seller. You manually typed in Jim Bailey Living Trust dated July 1, 2015. And in the signature field, it took it from the people section and populated it. This is a pretty efficient way to do it. It may not seem like the best thing since we're doing .loop, but it works. I hope this is helpful because at the end of the day, what really matters is not did .loop do it automatically, it's did you set up the listing agreement or the contract correctly so that you have a valid document. I hope that helped and have a great day.